All right, friends, Peggy Hall back with you from the healthyamerican.org. I have a very important guest. He's a healthy American, and he is actually someone that has been digging in to what's been going on, not only with the fires in California, but in other areas. He is a specialist. He is a forensic arborist. Robert, welcome to the program here. Please introduce yourself to our viewers. Let them know how you got started in digging into the fires. Friends, we're going to be giving you clues in terms of what to look for in terms of what's going on in Canada right now. So Robert, welcome to the program. How did you get into this fire business?
Well, first of all, thank you, Peggy, for having me on here. It's an honor to meet you and get a talk with you about what's going on in this world. As far as this fires, well, I happen to be studying plants my entire adult life, 48 years. Always had my head in a scientific book, learning every kind of plant I could, whether it's residential imported trees and plants or all the native plants and shrubs and stuff in California. It's just been my hobby. And I've been a mountain climber for the whole time, climbed a lot of mountains and botanizing the whole way. And I generally cook on the campfire from sea level to 12,000 feet in the high Sierra. I've always done that. So I've seen a good share of fire aftermaths in all the different forest zones. And I know what they look like. I know how the trees burn, which trees burn and which ones don't. And then out of the blue, 7 years ago, I saw this picture here on the screen here of Santa Rosa.
Yeah. Go ahead and share your screen, Robert, so we can see that. Folks that are just tuning in, and again, that's at the bottom. You can click the share screen, and that'll bring up the photos. Friends, what we're going to do in this live, this is a very exclusive video for you. Robert is going to be sharing with you photos of what happened in California. And as the photos start to come out in what's going on in Canada, I want you all to be the detectives. I want you to, as I say, connect the clots in terms of what you are seeing, what you are being told, and what the facts are. Because as Robert's going to share with you, and as I have done in many videos, there are things that are literally defying the physics of fire. Robert is an expert in trees and how they burn. He's looking for these clues. So take it away, Robert.
All right, everybody can see the screen okay?
Absolutely.
All right. This is 7 years ago in Santa Rosa. I saw this picture on my computer screen. And first thing I saw is trees up and down every street and between houses in Santa Rosa, California, where the houses are not partially burned. They're turned to white ash like a crematorium. But above all that, I saw the trees virtually untouched. And that didn't go well for me, knowing my, my whole background in trees. And in this Santa Rosa Valley here up north, there's at least 75 or more different species of trees. Many of them are very flammable, like the pine family with spruce, fir, pine, Douglas fir, and hemlock in it. And also the different species of eucalyptus, which many eucalyptus you can light on fire with green leaves and a cigarette lighter in your hand, no exception. And you better be running. That didn't happen here. As you can see, the trees are green, probably all dead because they're cooked from the inside out like a vegetable. Same thing, Santa Rosa, plenty of pine trees in the picture. They didn't burn. Houses, to this day, I've not seen a partial house yet, and hardly any black. They're always white ash with rarely any black anywhere. And then shortly after I started my journey, because I didn't know what was going on here. This was all new to me. It didn't make sense. Then I saw this picture of Paradise, California, where 15,000 homes were taken away. And the only things that burned here were the row of Italian cypress on the left. That's the way they grow in uniform rows like that. And the number one tree in California that burns more than any other species, and by far, is the ponderosa pine. Paradise was full of ponderosa pines, even in this picture. There's also some Sierra redwood in there and many other imported trees. but they didn't burn that day or that month. This is another one of Paradise, California, 60 to 80 foot ponderosa pine that are probably dead, but they're not burned up, while the houses are missing. They're just gone, leaving only a pile of metals, which you would think would be a super high heat. Well, if so, why are the pines still there? On any forest fire, the first thing that burns are the pine needles, especially a firestorm where the fire's up in the tops of the trees. That didn't happen. This is Santa Rosa, somebody else's photo from the air. I've been to this site many times already. The few trees here are actually in the poison oak family: African sumac, Chinese pistachio, and I think one other, California pepper. None of them burned, but yet Jack in the Box on the left, McDonald's at the top, and the gas station were just completely burned to the ground, leaving only metals. Somehow the fire crossed a 6-lane highway, Freeway 101. Didn't burn anything, just the buildings. Any questions so far?
Robert, this is so important what you're showing, and it defies the physics of fire. Fire needs 3 things to burn. It needs fuel, it needs oxygen, and it needs heat. And if we have the heat because we have these metals that are basically left over. We have the fuel, which are these trees, which you explained are so flammable. So what we are seeing is not a pattern of a typical wildfire. There is no black ash. There is only this white ash, and house fires don't burn in this type of pattern. So let's keep going with these photos are fantastic.
That's true.
They're tragic, but it's
Yes.
fabulous with what you're bringing us evidence here.
This is up in Redding, California, called the Fawn Fire, which they put a lady in jail saying she did it and she had nothing to do with it. I talked to this gentleman here. It's a 2-story house, gone. Yet in front is a deodar cedar from the Himalaya on the left, pine family. It's dead but not burned. On the right's a Canary Island pine, and there's some digger pine in there and ponderosa pine. All the pines didn't burn, yet the house is missing. It's white ash, there's no carbon. A few metals are left. This is everywhere I go up there. I'm sorry. This is called the Oak Fire near the western side of Yosemite National Park last July, August. I knew there was foul play, so I drove there. Same footprint. All the same trees, and there's black oak in here also, the tall oaks. Some trees burned when they're close enough to houses, but in general, the forest did not burn. It dried out like being inside of a microwave. Here's the Dixie Fire, I believe 2.5 years ago. North by Mount Lassen, the volcano, is a town called Greenville. They took the whole town away. And there's the forest in the background, ponderosa pine, white fir, the 2 most burned trees in the state of California. They didn't burn up that day, or barely. They were dried out, yet the town's missing. They took almost every building except the food store and a gas station.
It looks like it looks like a war zone. It does not look like a forest fire. It's not a forest fire because the forest didn't burn.
That's correct. In any forest fire, the forest burns first, then it moves into the cabins or towns. Many pine species are have more combustible needles than others. This one is an extreme one. This is the pinyon pine of commerce, the pinyon nuts you eat, near the Nevada border in a town called Walker on Highway 395. This was a metal shop. A metal man had all kinds of metal equipment in here. It got incredibly hot, yet the pine to the left, right above it, did not burn up. Oddly enough, on the right, was a Fremont cottonwood. I'll get into that here a little in it shortly. Tell you about the everything about a Fremont cottonwood. And this is Greenville again. The town's missing. I can't find a burned up leaf or needle. Nope.
Stunning.
This is also a back road going from Mount Lassen to Lake Tahoe, part of the Greenville fire. Tree trunks are black, and that's mostly because your cambial fluids are just inside the bark where your main water uptakes and nutrient uptakes occur, bringing nutrients to the top of the tree and keeping it healthy. So the trunks are black, but the needles would not ignite. Let me show you what a cigarette lighter can do. Just a little cigarette lighter. Incidentally, down here at the road, these little twigs are aspen because they're high mountain. Guess what? They burn from the inside out. They hold a ton of water. And I'll get into that shortly also. This is the mosquito fire out of Auburn, California, last year along Highway 80, the city of Auburn. And there was a fire to the east of it, a large one, a firestorm, they said. Well, here's your ponderosa pine again. Can't say they're burned up. Even if they're missing needles, the twigs burn right behind the needles. The little 5 centimeter or millimeter twigs burn right away. That didn't happen. This is a digger pine up in the Lake Berryessa area. Houses are missing everywhere. I think 1,500 houses in that one. Here's the pines. They're dead. I can't say they're burned.
Wow.
Now, this is one of my best pictures, or worst, on Big Basin State Park, all the redwood trees near San Francisco. The fire burned the whole park, shut it down for 2 years. And the fire burned all the way down to Highway 1, the coast highway. I'm standing on Highway 1, taking this photograph. These are blue gum eucalyptus, arguably the most combustible leaf I know of. I can light them on fire with a cigarette lighter. They didn't burn up, and you can see the leaves touching the ground. The ground's still black. What kind of flame doesn't burn organics? Put a piece of metal in your microwave and you'll have the answer.
That's it, exactly.
This is the same grove months later. We've had some rain. It's either November or December. A few of them are regenerating, but many of them are just dead. I cut down trees for a living. On a eucalyptus, if I cut it down, it grows back. It's rare they die. You cut them down, they grow back. That's not happening. These things are so cooked. It's cooking the root systems, the trunks, and very few are surviving. Another very combustible leaf is in the avocado or laurel family, which camphors and bay laurels and avocados are in. This is a California bay tree that grow in Central California at least. Again, you can light them on fire with a cigarette lighter. I have not seen a leaf to this day burn a bay leaf. And one of these fires was at Point Reyes National Seashore, which is all Douglas fir and bay trees. The ground was on fire, the tree trunks were on fire, but no bay leaves burned, and they should have. Now we're getting down to the brass tacks here. This is up in the Kincaid fire, north of Santa Rosa, I guess 3.5 to 4 years ago. Trees were burning from the inside out, and mostly the trees that hold the highest water in them. I don't mean sappy, I mean water, like willows, cottonwoods, alders, birch, aspen, oaks, bays, madrones, maples. They hold a ton of water. When you cut them open, sometimes the water is geysering out of the stump an inch high. Realistically, those should be the last trees to burn. But oddly enough, they're the first to burn. This is in the middle of a large vineyard. There's no dead grass or dead trees anywhere, probably a half mile away. How did the fire get in the middle of this tree? And around it is soil compaction. Vehicles drive around it. There's no oxygen in the ground because compacted soils don't breathe well. So you can't say fire came up underground. That didn't happen. And these were all over the place. Any tree hanging over the road that was dead, they cut them down. I quickly saw the cavities. It didn't make any sense to me. You might have a cavity in a very old tree, 4 or 6 foot in diameter, not a young, vigorous oak. It's going to be 100% heartwood and sapwood. This is happening everywhere. These are blue oaks. Trying to think of the location here. I believe this is out of Mariposa also, the oak fire. A ton of water. Here's one of the worst one. Here's one of the worst ones. This is a giant blue gum eucalyptus, about 130 feet tall, right next to the road. I'm standing on the road. This is 7 feet tall on its side. That's how big it is. I've never seen a cavity in a eucalyptus tree for 33 years. Never a hole. They compartmentalize their wounds very well. Somehow this giant thing burned from the inside out. And you see the metal fence post here to the right a little bit. There's actually one of those behind the stump, touching the stump. I start thinking, how hot did that post get to do this kind of damage? And for how long? And I have to remind everybody, this is September, October. It's cattle country. The cattle have eaten the grass down to a ½ inch. The hay truck has to show up to throw hay out to feed the cattle. There's no combustible materials on the ground. How could this thing burn from the inside out? Nobody stacked firewood against it and had a bonfire. It's almost impossible to burn this from the inside out with zero materials on the ground. Unless, of course, the water itself is activated electronically through this microwave technology. This is a madrone tree right next to a creek. There's water below. The oak fire again, Mariposa area. Madrones hold a ton of water. They're in the blueberry family with blueberries, cranberries, huckleberries, madrones, and manzanita, actually, the oddball manzanita, drought tolerant, but holds a ton of water. Here's the madrone, burned from the inside out. And of course, above, no leaves are burned.
Wow.
These two pictures are from the internet. This should be a Monterey cypress. Nothing's on fire anywhere around it, but yet it burned by itself from the inside out. Another species, a little blurry. I don't know where that one was. Same technology. This is one I have a lot to talk about usually. This is a Fremont cottonwood, arguably the largest water holding capacity tree in the Western United States. Some of the Fremont cottonwoods can be 6 foot or more in diameter and pretty soluble water. It's not sappy at all. It's very, very watery. These are the first trees I see to burn from the inside out. It should be the dead last. It's in the willow family. And we all know willows are extreme water lovers, along with black cottonwood, aspen up in the high country. That's a poplar like this. These are the first to burn. This is an old riverbed of rocks. There's nothing around it to burn it even. No grass, no bushes, just river rocks that are all rounded. Yet here's the tree that lit on fire all by itself. I guess a year and a half ago in Isleton, it's a little community in the California Delta, 21 mobile homes burned to the ground.
Oh.
And all the grass is still here. This happens to be a mulberry tree. Again, mulberries are related to fig trees. They hold a ton of water, usually of a white sap. The mulberry family has white sap. So here's this mulberry. Looks like it got hit by lightning, splayed completely open, burned completely from the inside out. All the bark's gone, and there's nothing around it that could have caught it on fire. So we're seeing that more and more. The water lovers or extreme water lovers are the first to burn instead of the last. It's probably enough for trees right now. I wanted to get into some materials. I've been to 106 trips now to 38 fire aftermaths. Only 3 were natural, where the trees burned. All the rest were something unnatural. So here's your normal tire. This one didn't melt at all, and the ground's black. It didn't melt, nothing, no disfiguration. That's what I see on the label, a polyester core. There's no metal inside. That tree, that one's completely left alone. Then you see these. There's your steel belts inside of a tire. 90% of the time, this is what I find. The rubber is completely gone. You can find 0 rubber every time, and the steel belts are showing up. And then 1 out of a couple hundred tires is like this. Same area, same ground. And I moved the tire to look underneath. There's a ring in the dirt. It's been sitting there. Nobody just put it there out of the blue. Polyester core, they're unaffected. Now, normal wood fires don't attack a tire just because it has steel belts in it. No, it's something else. Same thing here. The rubber is completely gone. I've never seen a partial burn tire. I've seen thousands of tires already. This is where the blonde lady is in jail up in Redding. They're framing her for this fire, and she couldn't have started this in her wildest dreams. This fence line is still here. I was here in February. The whole fence line only burned at the ground and where the nails are attached to the fence or the wires attached. Nothing goes like that. No way. I came up with a new idea. The ground itself is on fire. That's why tree trunks are burning to the ground. Wood poles like this are burning to the ground. And I think that's mostly due to the metals that are present in the ground, whether they're ferrous or non-ferrous. The ground itself is on fire. I won't get into the spray area. That would be Dane Wigington to do
Yeah,
that.
we've had a couple of videos on that, but there definitely are connections making things more flammable. But yeah, these pictures are, hard evidence right here.
I generally see a picture on the internet and I get in a car and I drive to the fire to check it out. This is again the oak fire in Mariposa area by West Yosemite. This was an old botanist lady I found from the neighbor. She had flowers everywhere. And here's this fence board. It's the top piece, actually. I stood it up to get a better look at it. It only burned where a nail was. Some of them fell out, but you can see the nails when you look close. The only place that board burned is where the nails were. So what was on fire? The nails, not the wood. That was secondary. Same board. Some of the nails fell out when I was moving it around, but there's still, 3 of them in there. Okay, this is not normal at all. Why would the nails be on fire? Another fence. And I see this in every aftermath. I'm just picking out the best, clearest photos so people can really understand what's going on. The hardware is on fire and the wood is only burning as an after effect because of close proximity. Different types of metals, sometimes the barbed wire areas, if they're wrapped enough, that'll burn more, but it's generally nails, screws, bolts, and hinges. These are all different fences from different aftermaths, something I've never seen in my wildest dreams. See, they're all different. One after another. Fire doesn't burn nails and then go out. And your media, of course, is going to tell you it's the flying embers, the flying ashes. All 6 media giants, the flying embers. Well, I didn't know flying embers are attracted to metal. That's a new one.
Exactly.
That one fell down. I picked it up just to show that there was nails on it. This is north of Weed, California, not the mill fire, another one before that, where they burned a motel down. Same thing with the trees, ponderosa pines. Nope. This is near Topaz Lake where they gamble, right on the edge of Nevada there. I saw that. Only burn where the barbed wire is. Well, that's a new one.
Yeah.
This goes on and on wherever I am. There's always materials left over. A split rail fence, homemade. These were 8-foot tall posts. And I stood this one up and took a picture, I think, or one of these. Yeah, amazing. Whether they're painted or not, they're burning mostly where the nails are. This is a guardrail in Port Chicago, where all of the California rivers come together near Benicia. There's a little regional park there. The eucalyptus trees were dead, but they didn't burn. But I was looking at the guardrails. Every one looked like this, where the bolts were, or screws.
Yeah. I saw that in Ojai, Robert, when I was driving through some years ago, and I saw the guardrails were melted and the wood had not burned. It's like, how can that be?
Yeah. It's opposite world. Everything that should burn doesn't.
That's
and everything
right.
that shouldn't burn does. This is a parking block that homemade, perhaps 30 feet long. The studs that go in the ground are bolted with the cross beams. The only place that thing burned is where all the bolts were. And there were 6 or 7 in a row. All like that one, very similar.
Mm-hmm.
These metal T-posts that they pound in the ground, those usually get very hot. But I see nails also at each junction there.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fawn fire again, where the poor lady's fighting for her life to stay out of jail. Here's the fawn fire also. A lot of nails and a lot of barbed wire. It only burned 5 feet off the ground. The flying embers, first thing they say, all 6 media giants say the same thing. Guardrails. This is my best one. I've taken a lot of them, but this one's more succinct. The bolts get super hot. Once they cool off, that's it. It goes out. It doesn't burn the rest of the board. And since they've been burning like this, they've been replacing them with this. A plastic bushing, probably microwave safe, and steel beams going in the ground. I'm seeing this everywhere. Wow. No more wooden posts anymore. This is statewide. I've seen it everywhere.
Yep, there's evidence right there.
Oh, amazing. John Lord and Matt Dakin, the two that analyzed
Yes.
Paradise. They became fast friends of mine, and John passed away. But Matt and I still do a lot of hiking together. He's a wealth of information. And they brought up the culvert pipes in Paradise. The fire is barely out, and they're ripping the road up and taking these metal pipes out. Now, normal wood fires have nothing to do with metal pipes 2 to 6 feet underground, unless they were getting compromised. And if a diesel truck went over it, maybe there'd be some collapsing on the road. They're quickly pulling these out and replacing them with plastic ones or cement, like this, cement pipes, never metal again.
Wow.
And I've seen this at the Dardanelle fire, the Caldor fire out of Tahoe, the Salinas fire, and one other somewhere. I can't remember where. Oh, Big Basin itself. Only where the fire happened across the road. The only place they're pulling the metal out. Something I've never seen before.
They're trying to cover their tracks, but these are the clues that we can see.
That's right. Now here is where they did that. They pulled one out. This is part of the Caldor fire, which is western side of Lake Tahoe and also Caples and Silver Lake along the Carson Pass Road, Highway 88. This is up almost the subalpine belt where you don't see a forest fire. It's so rare, it's unheard of. This is 8,000 and 9,000 feet up, and you see aspen to your right and left, extreme water levers. And I did analyze that forest. They were doing it there too. 12 of the pipes they pulled out of the ground and replaced them with plastic, or if it's a lot of creeks, a lot of water, they put in a cement pipe going through, larger diameters.
Robert, I got a question for you. You say
Yep.
that the fire isn't going to burn at that altitude. Why is that?
It's usually too cool up there, not
Okay.
enough combustible materials. Trees are shorter, farther apart. The aspen, forget it. This is an extreme water lever.
Yeah.
This is close to it. I can't call this quite subalpine, but we're over
Mhm.
8,000 feet already. And this same fire was over on the other road, Highway 50 at Sierra Ski Ranch. It went to the top of the ski resort. That's 9,000
gosh.
feet. And here it went up to subalpine belt, up to the volcanic rock where there's no trees left. Generally, when I backpack the Sierra, and I've backpacked probably 10,000 miles already, you might find a lightning strike at high altitude that burned 1 or 2 or maybe a small grove of trees, but it doesn't burn the entire mountainside, square miles of forest, because
Right.
they're all in patchwork. They're not in a thick forest like lower down in elevation. These are all far apart. This fire I've analyzed a lot. The whole forest is dead, but I can't say it's burned up. And so anyway, most of your water levers, like I stated before, or drought tolerant trees that hold a ton of water, those are the first to burn from the inside out, and not a leaf will be burnt. So it's craziness. Now this is a metal, one of those T-posts you hammer in the ground. This is a year later. Winter and spring already came. This is May or June. The ground is sterilized. Why didn't anything come up? There's
Wow.
rootstocks, bulbs, corms, rhizomes, all kinds of seeds that should have come up the next year. They always do. Not here. It sterilizes soil, all organic matter. And this is over a year later. Like, I've never seen that in my life. But there it is. That's the Mount Hamilton complex that burned all the mountains between Tracy and San Jose on the east and west, and Livermore, California, down to Pacheco Pass. It almost took the entire mountain range away from us. This is, I call it the Lake Sonoma fire up by Guerneville. Here's the back of a truck. The window's melted out. To melt that window, auto glass melts at 2,500 degrees. Forest fires top out at 1427, and that's
Right.
extreme.
That's right.
Unless you use an accelerant. And here in the back, your tires are gone, leaving slinky-like steel belts. But there's the plastic chainsaw. Plastic should have melted and been gone.
You have all the evidence here, Robert, and you have an excellent detective eye to see these things.
Yeah, that should be gone first, the plastic first, even before the rubber. But nope. Your tires look like this everywhere. Your rims come out, if they're steel rims, they're still there, tarnished because of rain and weathering, or they melt completely on the ground if it's more pure aluminum, which melts at 1221 degrees. Forest fire at ground level, right off the grass, is only 300 degrees. That's the lowest it can be. The fire captains both told me that. Why did the rim melt at 1221 degrees? Other ones chunk out in pieces. I think this one kind of chunked out. It probably has some degree of alloys in it. And there'll be big chunks of aluminum alloys laying around. And here's your slinky-like steel belts. This is your mosquito fire on the way to Lake Tahoe again. There's your whole forest, ponderosa pine, almost every tree. Trunks are black to the top, but not one needle is burned.
Stunning.
The most flammable, not most flammable, but the most often burned tree, a forest tree in all of California by far, is a ponderosa pine. They didn't burn that day. And they always say the fire is moving super fast. In that case, it's a firestorm. There'd be nothing left but blackened poles at different heights. And here's your cars sitting away from the trees, which maybe had a little grass around them. The rims are melted out. The windows are melted out. They're completely toasted, like Dr. Judy Wood would say. And there's your rim there that's kind of chunked out. It didn't melt out like the back rims, the aluminum. Windows are gone. Organic matter is okay. This is what your window glass looks like. Just over 2,500 degrees to get it melting like this, and it falls in on the dashboard. I see this every single car with zero exceptions, every window. And if you talk to firemen in the city, they'll say they've never put a car fire out where the windows are melted. They might shatter or break. They never melt out. That's all I find. And in the background, leaves, leaves, leaves. You can burn a leaf a lot quicker than heat up a windshield.
Yes.
This is Greenville also. That house survived, luckily. And the car is just completely tutted, completely gutted. And there's your rims chunking out because I believe they're alloys. I'm not an expert in that field. I have a pool of aluminum in the backyard I keep. And there's, let's see, nothing in here but metal. And this is the mill fire, another lie. Mill fire is in Weed, California. They said the mill caught on fire. I analyzed the place for 2 different days. These were mulberry trees to the left, again, holding a lot of water. Those are the first to burn. The bark's off. Just how hot did they get? And of course, you see other trees in the background. They're okay. Some of the metals will be crumpled up and twisted. Metals should not be bent in any way, especially I-beams and big things. I hope these firemen survived. They got away from their truck, and that's what happened to a fire truck. Greenville, California. This is already over a year later, I believe. The needles have fallen off the tree, brown. The trunks are black. They're all dead. I just can't say they're burned up. When I see the twigs there or needles, they're a cooked vegetable. That's what I call them.
Yeah.
This is my friend's vehicle. He had 25 of these old cars in the background. This is a blue oak forest with almost zero combustible materials around the whole area. Blue oak forest with very thin grass. I mean, there's just not enough combustible materials. He had 25 of his cars look like this. That's the Mount Hamilton complex fire, whatever they call it.
Wow.
Back to that trailer park in the Delta, Isleton it's called. Here's your mobile home. It's just gone. Why is the wood steps left alone? That's the only wood on the property, especially that one. That's the door frame to walk in your mobile home. You open the door and walk in. Even on the other side of that wooden deck, it's not black at all. So your wood combustion fires that we know of weren't there. This is some other kind of flame. It only works on the metals. That's just impossible to me, but it happened.
Yeah.
One of my most damning photographs I've taken. The
Yeah,
firemen there were all clueless. All the firemen were clueless. There they are in the background. You can see them.
That was going to be my question, Robert, is what do these firemen say when you point this out?
They're all clueless. They can't answer my questions, any of them. All they know how to do is clean their equipment and turn on the hose and come up with their best reasoning of why this happened. They were all off base, especially the main person in charge. Unbelievable. The trees around this place are dead. And the mulberries you can see in the background, they're just cooked like crazy because of the water volume in them and all the metals, of course. But here's the wood, just fine. It's not even black on the side of the camper. Oh, it's beyond me.
Yeah.
This is up in Calistoga, a bag of soil. Should be gone. This is the thinnest plastic you can get. I moved the soil out of the way to see if somebody put it there. Nope, dirt underneath, no leaves or nothing. It's been sitting there. To my left is a house that's missing. And here's the plastic bag, 30, 40 feet from the house. It melted a little bit, but it should be gone. This is a firestorm. Getting into other materials, synthetic seat. That's right where it was. The whole ground's black. That's your seat cushion. Swimming pool, Big Basin State Park. All the redwoods are burned on the outside. The needles didn't burn. They are fire retardant, redwood trees, but the needles burn in a firestorm. And here's your plastic tarp, a plastic swimming pool. The canopy over there, I think, collapsed because there was a metal bolt somewhere in those elbows. I'm not positive, but there should be holes in this thing. Nope. No discoloration. The redwood, yeah, they took the whole redwood forest away from us. That's also there to the right of the swimming pool. A canopy, and I don't think it was made of asbestos. Yeah, house is gone and synthetics are okay. So that's what's going on. Lake Sonoma area. They're gathering all the plastics they can find and taking them off your property before you're allowed to go back to your house. I knew they were cleaning this stuff up. So people need to keep their eyes open on empty trucks coming into these areas. And when the trucks are leaving, what's in the back of them and why would they be taking plastics out? This was a stockpile area. So they're basically stealing your private property. Garbage bins, if they're away from metals, they're not melted. Plastic bags, whatever else is in the picture. It was all ready to go, stacked up nice and neatly. And here's a redwood forest. No leaves are burned. Yeah. This is your Caldor fire at Whiskey Flats where they say it started. I found anomalies everywhere. Little kids' plastic truck. Another pool. I see pools and trampolines all the time. They should have holes everywhere in them.
Yeah, they should have
The
melted.
flying embers they talk about.
Right.
Nope. Whether it has water in it or not, it would still burn the edges above water line. It would do something. Nope. Down below has the filters and stuff. I guarantee there's some metal parts in there. This is what I find everywhere. This is Greenville behind a stone wall. You couldn't see the kids' toys from the street. I walked every street around the city itself. Spent a whole day up there. Couldn't find any plastics. Then I walked onto some of the properties. This is behind a wall where you couldn't see it from the street. So they didn't take it away. They've got a little bit of melt to them, probably because there's some metals nearby. Yeah, they did a good job there. Where's this one? This is the mosquito fire out of Auburn. Swing set, plastics, the slide, nothing. Meanwhile, houses are missing.
Oh.
They put a police line tape around it for what? The fire's gone.
Yeah.
Here's your plastic stuff. Tennis shoe in Calistoga. Synthetic should have burned up quick. Didn't happen. And here's what I found in the oak fire. I knew it was happening. Finally, there's a container of freight here. This is behind it. The garden hose is rubber. The chair is plastic. The toe strap, yellow. Bunch of stuff in here that was left over and didn't melt. They put it in a pile to be taken away and they didn't see it because it was behind this container of freight. Somebody got sloppy. There's also some pots in there, blue, pink, and some for little plants. They're just probably, I think they're told to just take everything off the property, no matter what it is. There's a pipeline going across the top, the black one with the little screwdriver fittings on to tighten them up. All this should have been melted and gone. Didn't happen. So people need to be vigilant, watching trucks going in and out of these areas. Take pictures, share them with everybody you can. Yeah, here's a toe strap right in the middle of all this metal, everything burned up, but not that synthetic toe strap, really. Nothing passes my eyes. And that's all I've got for now. I've got over 1,000 pictures. Those were just some of the better ones.
Well, that was really impressive, Robert. You can do the stop screen share and we'll bring you back on If you hover your mouse there, it'll bring up a little red. There you go. And wow, that was really impressive. I want to make a couple of points here. You did over 100 trips, 106 trips to 38 different fires. Only 3 you estimated to be natural.
That's
That
right.
means, fire, by and large, these were anomalies, but they cannot be explained away by normal fire behavior. We have glass that is, I just look at my notes here. We have glass that melts at 2,500 degrees, but an outdoor wildfire only can get to 1427 at an extreme level, which they would call a firestorm. Firestorms would take away all these needles off the trees. The trees would be burning, but we're seeing those that have the highest water content are burning from the inside out. It defies logic, and more importantly, it defies physics. And you mentioned the different kinds of trees, like the ponderosa pines in California would be the most prone to being burned. And you're seeing that these trees are standing and the houses are decimated. There's no black ash. There are so many of these anomalies. Something that you mentioned in that one photo, there was 0 combustible material. So just a quick reminder, friends, you need to have fuel in order for a fire to sustain itself. Now, sadly, in my neighborhood, just a week ago, there was an electric fire in somebody's garage. I don't know if they had an electric vehicle or if they had a generator plugged in. I don't know what it was. And there was a whole slew of fire trucks that came. Nothing went beyond that person's garage. Nothing was melted. It didn't jump. There were no embers. So this concept of, and there's plenty of fuel, but the concept that there can be fires at this magnitude and we're not seeing the fuel burn. I always make the joke about, hey, honey, let's have a fire tonight. Grab the old porcelain toilet and a couple of tiles off the roof, and let's have a fire in the fireplace. These items don't burn. It looks like there was a bomb. It looks like, and you alluded to, so let's just shift gears a little bit, Robert. How does metal burn?
Well, to burn metal, you either have to get up to around 4,000 degrees, and you have to use an accelerant or a different type of fuel source. And I think of acetylene, butane, propane, wood fires. None of those are going to do it. Even the accelerants aren't going to do it. So I started thinking about, I've had a fire in my microwave one day. I think some tin foil was on my honey jar or something. I was trying to heat up the honey because it was all thick and coagulated. And I heard some noise and I looked around and there was a fire in my microwave. So I don't suggest anybody do that.
No.
Incidentally, I wanted one area I left out. Besides your extreme water lovers, when I cut down a willow tree, it grows back. I could cut it down every year, it'll grow back. I'm finding willow trees in the riparian corridor with a creek running or not, a low spot where there's even subterranean water. The willows are dead and they don't regenerate. They've died into the mud, into the water, all the roots. This is one of the worst or strongest root systems on the planet. If you give it enough water, I don't care how many times you cut it down or burn it, it's going to sucker back with a vengeance. Not in these spots. They're dead, even in the water. And the fire, I noticed, will follow a creek bed and not climb the bank uphill like fire usually does and get up on top of the bank. It stays in the river course, sometimes a quarter mile, following the water and killing all the extreme water lovers, which is completely backwards. And your sappy trees, your pines and stuff that are more flammable, the sap is slow. It's kind of the difference between putting a glass of water in your microwave and a glass of chili. That chili takes a lot longer to heat up. That's what I equate this with all the sappy pines, cedars, spruce, fir, larch, all those. It's not as water soluble as the willows. Even though they're more flammable, they're last to burn, which makes no sense at all. So at a slower rate, they are burning from the inside out. But I haven't found too many cavities in the pines. I have some photos, but not like all the water lovers. The water lover, I could make a bonfire next to a willow, feed it a bonfire of wood every day for a month. Yeah, it'll kill it and burn the leaves. Then after a couple of weeks, it'll sprout out and grow right back. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
These things are sterilized way down in the lake, river, spring, mud. It's something unholy.
That is so well put, Robert. And I jotted down that phrase. You said that they sterilized the soil. And
Yeah.
that's where your, forensic eye comes in, because somebody
Yeah.
would look at that aftermath and not see that nothing had regenerated there. So sterilizing the soil.
And
yes,
that's all your seed structures, all of them, plus your roots, rhizomes, corms, bulbs, creeping rhizomes, rootstocks, they're all gone. Even the seeds. And some seeds, especially lily bulbs, they're down 6 to 10 inches in the ground. Why are they gone?
Yeah.
The ground itself is on fire, I've come to realize.
That is really amazing. And you've got the evidence. You've documented this so well. You have hiked thousands of miles in California. And friends, even if you're not from California, this is so important to understand. And in a few minutes, as we start to wrap up, I'm going to talk about why I think this is happening. But Robert, you've been taking action. You've been speaking out in front of different groups. Would you share with our audience, if you're comfortable talking about, who you've shared this information with? What can we do with this information?
The best we can do is keep it at a small level. If you get too big, they treat you like Martin Luther King. So you want to reach out to everybody you can, one-on-one, small groups, spread the word far and wide, and keep it on a smaller scale. That's what I've been doing, although I talked to Jesse Howell in Canada for 2 hours and 10 minutes, and I had lots to say. And also the Menlo Park Forum, whatever that's called, I spoke over there.
Yes.
And a lot of closed door meetings with Deborah Tavares and my fire captain friends.
Great.
Some very awake people that have taught me a lot also. And my 2 fire captain friends are both 30-year fire captain vets. I had to teach them the trees. For some reason, they're not teaching the firemen combustibility rates of different species. Even the big 5 in the state, they have no clue. So they're not going to have a sharp eye if they don't know what to look for.
As you say, they just know how to clean the equipment and turn on the fire hose.
And they cook good too.
Yeah. So you are available, aren't you, Robert? If somebody wants you to come and speak to a group,
sure.
You would be, yeah. So you're in California, friends. The best way is to work through us. So email support@thehealthyamerican.org. We will get you in touch with Robert if you have questions, if you would like him to share these slides, if you would like him to come speak to the groups. And you're so right, Robert. We need to work at the local level, and we need to start to put these pieces together. And I came up with a list, and we, friends, Robert and I have spoken before in the past. We've emailed quite a bit, and I wanted him to come on the show because he is an expert in how trees burn. And as you've seen, this is factual based information. This is not emotionally charged, although it's a very heavy event. He's bringing the facts, and that's where you can draw your conclusions. So Robert, these are the conclusions that I've drawn in no particular order. I'll go through them, and then you let me know if you want to add anything to that. So right off the bat, I would say that these events, whoever is orchestrating them, and again, there are those that believe it is our own government. There are those that believe it's foreign governments. There are those that believe it is, aliens or whatever. But the fact is, the result is that it leaves people terrorized. As a Californian, as someone who lives and has a property in a fire-prone area, I will tell you that when the weather is hot, and it doesn't even have to be hot these days for them to unleash this, just living with that specter of I could be burnt out, it is very terrifying. I know people personally whose homes burned to the ground, who lost everything. I know people who had fires licking right up at their backyard, and they still live with that PTSD. So terror is a very powerful force. It prevents you from thinking clearly. If someone is terrorized, they're going to look at your information. They won't even be able to see it clearly. All they are going to see is the destruction. Let me add a couple more to the list, and then I'd like to hear what you have to say. I think that they also want to burn people out of certain areas. They want them to leave. A lot of what you're showing us, this is beautiful rural areas. We're not talking about, although we did have some in Orange County of a regular, city street, but they want people to move out of these areas like Paradise and others and move into the cities and into the, I call them the rabbit hutches or the chicken coops, so that it's the pack 'em and stack 'em, more control, the 15-minute cities and so forth. They want the land, but at the same time, they're poisoning the land. So maybe they don't want the land. Maybe they only want to destroy the land so that it cannot thrive any longer. That also moves into my theory of depopulation, where there will be people that may suffer from the effects of whatever toxic poisons are being in the air. That plays into it. And then here, how about this one, Robert? I think that they want to make fire insurance so expensive. And that was the case for me. We could barely get fire insurance because we were in a high fire zone. And the fact is, they want the state to issue all of the insurance at a price that the state sets. So again, it's going to be so expensive for people to have their own single family homes that they're going to be forced to move into these pack them and stack them. My heart breaks when I hear about those in the mobile homes. First of all, they shouldn't melt. And secondly, they are mainly, people with lower income or living out, away from the cities, and they're going after them as well. And then the final one I'll mention, again, this is in no particular order because I think this one is huge. It could be number one. They're going to blame it on climate. They're going to blame it on climate change. They're going to look at this and say, look, can you believe that the wood is only burning where a nail is? Can you believe that this tire didn't melt? And only the one with steel melted? And then they're going to say, this is because of you using plastic straws and grocery bags and flying in an airplane. And we're going to charge you higher taxes because of this. So it completely falls into their hogwashing of man-made climate. Well, it's made by man, but not you and me. It's made by the evildoers. So what do you think about that list, Robert? Did I miss anything?
I like it. I'll just have three things to add. Even when they finish their game of burning down the forest of the whole planet, everything will regrow. In 100 years, everything will be back just the way they want it. When it comes to trailer parks, they're low-income people, fixed income, over 50 years old, say, that they've put their whole life in working. They bought their trailer park, their home. It's burned to the ground. They have nothing left. They either perished or they're moving to the stack and pack mega cities. First thing I noticed, I look for the trailers. A lot of them aren't trailer parks. They're people out in the country that just have trailers. They're the first to go. Paradise had 10 trailer parks, all 10 eliminated completely. And I've been there, I've analyzed it 3 years later, but they couldn't hide the evidence. I already found the evidence, even 3 years later. The insurance thing, you're probably partly right. But the other is, if you haven't paid for your house outright, because if you have, you don't have to have fire insurance. The ones that haven't, now you can't afford it or can't get it. Guess what? The bank takes your house back. Back to the city you go. Back to the city, because the next house will be the same thing. And I believe all your insurance people, at least at the top, are on the same page. And it could be a state thing also, but that's another way to get you out of the countryside, besides taking away the propane. That's coming. Deborah Tavares told me propane will be obsolete. You can have all you want, but there'll be nobody to deliver it to you. So you won't have a propane gas at your cabin anymore. No electricity. They're finding ways to stop you from having your well, your spring, your windmill. That's terrible to the groundwater. That's a no-no. That's not sustainable. And growing your own vegetables, of course, at home and on your little tiny balcony, your postage stamp balcony. Well, you might grow one tomato, but they don't want you to grow your own food. It's all about, they give you everything. So you live by whatever the government gives you. You can't be at all self-sufficient. And that's the plan. And other than that, I just want people to stay vigilant and keep your eyes open. Get into these places as soon as the fire is over. Take pictures, spread the word, get it out in your local little newspapers that the big six don't own, because they own all TV, all radio, all major magazines and newspapers in America. 6 billionaires. I loosely just call it the Billionaires Club. That covers everybody. But stay vigilant, people. Keep your eyes awake. Don't believe everything you see on this media. In fact, don't believe any of it. That's about all I have.
Thank you so much, Robert. I think in the aftermath of the Canadian fires, as more is coming out, we'll definitely come back, have you back on. And I know you probably are, it's unlikely you're going to Canada to take any photos, but you can analyze what people will be sharing. So friends, my purpose in having Robert on today, since we're right, so many of you have emailed me with understandable alarm in terms of what's going on in Canada. And of course, that's drifting into the United States with the horrible skies and all of that. And I thought, let's take a look at this hard and fast evidence. Robert is an expert in forensic. He's a forensic arborist. He studies how trees burn. He takes care of trees. He understands trees. He's hiked California, thousands of miles in the California forest. So he understands this. It's his profession. And I brought him on to share his slideshow. Most of those pictures, Robert, you took on site in your visits to these. And we're going to pray for your safety. I think it's important what you say, that we're going to keep this local and individual and educate people one by one. And I know people, even a few years ago, that did not believe what I was sharing with them after the Paradise Fire. And I didn't have the background you did, but I just used my own senses to say, this doesn't look right. You don't have red roof tiles and porcelain toilets being obliterated. Right. So friends, take this information, share this video far and wide. We'll have Robert back on to analyze what's going on in Canada, but I promise you, you're going to see these same anomalies. You're going to see things that literally defy the physics of fire. And it's important that we stay educated, that we stay aware, and that we stay alert to what's going on. And to also, this fits right into being prepared. So I've got videos on this channel about prepping. There are lots of people on YouTube that talk about prepping. Just make sure that you can feel confident in having an escape route if need be, your own emergency plan with people that you know, so that you will dial down those feelings of terror, which is what the bad guys want us to feel. So Robert, anything you want to sign off with? Folks can get in touch with you via us, support at thehealthyamerican.org. I want to thank you so much for your diligence and your aptitude in bringing this information, which is so important. Grateful to call you a healthy American. Stay on with me for just a moment, friends. We're going to be dialing out of the live stream here, but be sure that you're with me every day starting at 4 p.m. Pacific. That's 7 p.m. Eastern, as I bring you breaking news, Peggy to the rescue, analysis on what's going on, and always different solutions and strategies so that we can stand strong in all